Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another Gundam video. Today in this video, I have a deck profile. Now, I wanted to showcase this deck profile because I've seen this deck, give or take, this list being going around in my local area, really doing a lot of interesting things, winning some events and like new types and things of that sort. And I wanted to showcase this deck. Now, this is not a celestial being deck, so if you're used to that, but I do think that this deck is under the radar. A lot of people are not seeing it come, and when they go against it, it is really tough. It is a red purple deck that I want to showcase to you guys in this video. All right, without further ado, let's get into this deck profile. Now, something very interesting about this deck profile is I've seen a few people who have ran this similar deck showcase a card that is back in GDO 1. It is a common, so you might have to go back and grab it if you don't already have it. It is a common, so it's kind of cheap, and we're going to start off with that card. This is running 4 of the 3-2 Girgia Dogga sleeve. It is a 3-2 cost with a 2-3 stat line. That with that stat line, you'll be able to eat up a gym. Let me see if I can get that glare out the way. It is a 2-3 stat line. It can eat up a gym and still live by 1 HP. On top of it, the effect that it has is on destroy, choose one enemy unit with 5 or less AP and do 1 damage to it. So that's very interesting. So if you're going against aggro players, you could be able to eat up a gym, live by 1 HP, and if they decide to gun tank you, you can then ping it back as well. Very interesting when it comes to something like that. This can be used offensively as well. So with that being said, you can use this to potentially do 3 damage to a unit, and if it dies, so for an example, let's go against a Roselle, you will be able to do 2 damage on battle. It gets destroyed, then ping it, so this will be able to take out a Roselle as well, which is also really good. If they have Rick Diaz, you can go ahead and pretty much take out a Rick Diaz with this. They probably won't block, but they also might have to keep an eye out on this unit. So even against blockers, this can be really good, and against it just starts off your ping really early on your turn 3, and again, with that 1 extra HP allows you to live against like those early on units as well. Next we're going to be looking at is 3 of the Hyrcurans. This is just for the stat line, being able to do a 4-3 to potentially beat up a unit that has 4 AP, 4 HP or close to it. If you probably potentially ping, if they beat up one of your units, you then have this to take out that unit. So this is just overall just because of the stat line, because it's a 3-2 with a 4-3 stat line early on. Next we have 4 of the Barbatos First Form. This is a card that obviously you run the Mika engine into here. With that being said, this is your draw engine. This is not a card that you typically would drop on your turn 3 or turn 4. You typically would drop the link. Potentially, you don't have to do it on curve. What you can do, like a turn 3 or turn 4, you can potentially leave this more towards the mid-range if you are able to control the field. This is just a way to get that link out. If you have it, go ahead and ping and then get your draw off as well. You don't want to just drop the unit because they have a lot of chances to close combat it. There are ways to rest it, so you might not always want to just drop this just because. You can if you want to. You run the risk of not being able to get that effect off, but it is a 3-2, so if you have a couple of them and you feel you want to go ahead and drop it, you can go ahead and drop it. But this is a good way to get that draw effect going off with the first forms. Now, obviously, if you're running the first forms and the whole Mika engine, you're pretty much running 4 of the Adepts. With Adept here specifically, Adept is going to allow you to ping on your opponent and ping against them as well. Super solid unit. Again, just getting off that ping early on. You have the ping on the Girgia, you have the ping on the Adept. You're just going to get these pings going off very soon, early, and be able to kind of control the board at the same time. Be able to be aggressive as well if you needed to. As you continue with the 4s, we are running 3 of the baby Kshatriyas. With this Cyber Newtype, you're going to see we are running obviously Marita Cruz, and we're also running full frontals to give you some spoilers. With that being said, you can link it if you need to with either one of those pilots, be able to go ahead and swing and rush if you needed to. Also, it's just a good stat line 3-4, can eat up a 3 attacker. You put a pilot on it, and now you can take, a Roselle attack or something like that. So overall, really solid. If you put this with Kshatriya early on, if you needed to, that gives you a chance to hit for 5 and ping as well. So it's also really, really solid as well. So 3 of the Kshatriyas. Obviously, we have the Kshatriyas and Marita Cruises, so we're going to go ahead and drop 4 of the red LR Kshatriya. With this being said, you pair the pilots either full frontal, or you put Marita Cruise. You get the ping effect going off as well. Very, very nice. Obviously, with Marita, you'll be able to link it and rush. And with Marita, you'll be able to do additional pings as well. All, again, to control the board. You have your early on pings as well with the Gear. That is really, really solid. Like I said, this is probably a card that a lot of people don't see coming, and it's a really, really solid card. Next, as you get into that, start to curve out a little bit more, and you run 3 of the Sananjus. I don't run 4, I run 3. I think 3 is good enough. 4, I think you can get a little cloggy, but it is a very good card, especially if you're going in your local area. You have a lot more blockers or more units that like to wait towards the end. In that scenario, I'm gonna go ahead and drop this, and this card is very, very solid. Obviously, if you don't know what Sananju's effect, if you're paired, you get the high maneuver, but if you're not paired and you still swing and they allow you to swing to your shield, you still do 2 damage, which is also really, really nice when it comes to it. And it's any pair, so you can technically pair this with Mika if you needed to ping. And you drop this turn before, then pair next turn with Mika, ping, swing, hit a shield, and then ping for 2. So that also plays a factor. And then last but not least, the final boss monster. Normally you would run G-Quux, and you can run G-Quux if you wanted to. But in this deck, we are doing Neo Zeong. With Neo Zeong in this deck, because you have full frontal, this becomes a powerhouse on the field. Obviously, if you ever get to go against red-white or blue-red or green-red Neo Zeong, this card is a ridiculous card. If you get 2 on the board, is very, very dicey. It becomes almost nearly impossible. Now, I'm saying it's not possible, but it's nearly impossible to beat unless if they have a couple shields and 2 Neo Zeong, the chances of you winning is getting very, very slim. Super solid unit. On summon, deploy, you ping for 3, no requirement, just ping for 3, and then when you link it, every unit in your hand and on the field becomes a Neo Zeong. So when you go ahead and summon more units, you go ahead and get 3. And if you obviously have 2 on the field, you can then ping for 6, which again becomes very, very nasty. So this is where you can go ahead. Now, a lot of people normally stop at G-Quux, get the suppression off, but if you're going to go with ping, you can go ahead and have this as your big boss. I think you can, by the time you get to Sananju, I think you're able to kind of control the board a little bit to your favor to then be able to have the Neo Zeong come out. All right, and that is it when it comes to the units. Now, when it comes to the pilots, go ahead and show the pilots. We got 4 of the Mikas. Let me just go ahead and get that glare out of the way. We got 4, that doesn't help. Let's bring it over here. 4 Mikas. Obviously, when it comes to Mika, super solid unit. Pilot, it's generic pair with any unit, ping 1 on your side, ping 1 on their side. So you can get more pings that way as well. So 4 Mikas, and sorry for the glare because there's a light I have to put because it's really late. But you saw the 4 Mikas. Then you are doing 4 of the Marita Cruises. With this, you obviously have Baby Kshatriya, you have LR Kshatriya, all that can potentially help you. And if you needed to just have a pair for Sananju to get the effect to high maneuver, you can do that if you want to as well. So we run 4 of the Marita Cruises, and then to finish off the pilots, we are running 3 of the full frontal. Full frontal obviously links with the Baby Kshatriya. It also links obviously with Sananju and obviously Neo Zeong as well. You try to always keep maybe 1 full frontal if you can for the Neo Zeong, but if you need to ultimately drop because you need Sananju to kind of clear the board, then you would go ahead and put some pressure back on. Use full frontal's effect. Drop. You can drop your Baby Kshatriya if you need to. You can also technically drop off the Gear if you needed to as well. So that also plays a factor into that. And then last is we go into, or not last, but next we go into your your commands. We are running 4 of the close combats. Obviously, it makes sense. Early on, you're getting pings from close combats. As you see, you're going to get pings from your Gear. You're getting pings from your Adept. You're getting pings from your Kshatriya, Shinanju, Neozian, Mika. You're just getting pings like crazy. So having that at 4 makes sense. Now, I know a lot of people have liked certain things depending on your playstyle. Some people like improved technique. Me personally, I think with this deck, the way it is set up, I think Battle Vases can be the better card for you, and depending on your local meta, can be the best card for you. If your area is more towards the end game, where you kind of get the Wing, you get the O, you get Destiny, you get all these units that come more towards the end, improved technique can only help you to hit level 4 or lower unless you have 2 in the grave. Your third one becomes where you can pick anyone. With Battle Vases, that allows you to get the 3. It is very situational, but you can hit 3. I think because you can ping so early in the game with the Gear, with the Adept, with the Kshatriya, with the Sananju, the Neozian, the Mika, the close combats, you can get that off. Now, what else helps set up your pings would obviously be your base. We are running 3 of the Rulas. With the Rulas, allows you to go ahead and ping any unit with 5 or less AP. Again, that also plays a factor into Gear. Same requirement, 5 or less AP. You're able to then ping for 1. This can set up your plays to allow you to pretty much destroy something on the airfield. You ping for 1, then you hit this, and you got 4 right there off the rip. So that also plays a factor into how you want to play. And I think, again, depending on how you play, you can use this to, like I said, swing it at something, it gets destroyed, ping it again, hit it for 3, boom, you drop this, now you hit it for 6. So it all plays a factor into how you want to go ahead. You do have to figure out some math and figure out what's the best way to ping. And but last but not least would be 2 of the mining base. I like 2 of these specifically as I was playtesting this deck. I think this deck is actually kind of fun. I had a chance to kind of take a break a little bit from the CBs a little bit, and we were able to play this deck, and on MSA, this deck is amazing. I plan to do some locals with it. I plan to try it again when I get a chance to do some locals. Unfortunately, I'm under the weather, and I have not been able to go to my locals to try this deck out in person, but on MSA has been amazing, really great when it comes to playing with this against the other people I know locally. Really strong. So aggro, this hurts them a little bit because now you have a 6 HP base. Unless they have a pilot with Roselle or they have Gundam, they're not going to break it with 1 unit. They're going to have 2 units swing into this. And like I said, with so much ping you have in this deck, it becomes pretty much you can kind of control the board as you see fit. Now, obviously, if aggro has the hand, aggro has the hand. You try your best to get the early on units and controls and hope that you get your curve. Like I said, with so many low end 3s and 4s, you're pretty much hitting your curve. There's so many units that are 4s, and your commands and everything like that is also your 4s or lower, so you have a good shot. It's just more towards the end that you are hoping to get slowly as you continue to curve out. But I think overall this deck has definitely won a couple new types in my local area, and I've seen other people play this deck as well. I don't know the ratios, but I've seen other people play this deck very similar, maybe minor tweaks. Like I said, I've seen people do with G-Quux instead of the Neo Zeon, but I feel like Neo Zeon, if you do Sananju, I feel like Neo Zeon just becomes a little bit better. But then again, I understand G-Quux comes 1 turn earlier, and then you can suppress if you need to, but you do have the full frontal that you're going to run anyway, so it almost, to me, becomes a no-brainer. And I think overall this deck is actually really solid. I really do like that, this is a very good control build. Like I said, the only thing I saw that was very unique, that I say you have to go back, and I had to go back into my bulk stuff for GDO1, is to get the Gear. Everything else is pretty much used to everything, and these Battle Aces became a reprint, so everything else is pretty much, you can get it, within the last couple sets. Close combat you can get from the clan structure deck. You do have to go to Neo Zeon, which can be a little bit pricey, I guess, if you don't have the structure deck. But you can get to Sananju's for fairly cheap. The only problem with this is as GDO1 starts to cap off without no reprints, Kshatriya becomes kind of expensive. Obviously, you have Barbatos is also very expensive, but I wanted to try something different in my local area, and this is what I wanted to try out. I plan to try this out maybe in the upcoming week, get some duels if I can with this. I'm still testing out some more deck profiles for Celestial Being, trying to do some different color combinations, maybe a purple-white coming up soon. I do have my purple-green build as well. I'm trying to figure out my ratios and things of that sort. And I do have an updated version of the purple-red CB that I took to my locals. We did a couple tournaments. One new type, I went 3-3. And then one locals I went 3-1 with the purple red, and then another one we went 2-3. Unfortunately, just had horrible hands and did not either see my pilot or had too many pilots, which is very insane to have when the ratios I felt like was pretty solid. But overall, we might do an update on that as well once we finalize the tunes that I like on there. But that's pretty much it. I think this deck, like I said, is flying under the radar. I don't see a lot of people use it, and you do need to figure out how you're doing your pings because it becomes very important. You do have a lot of bursts that you can get off as well, so you do want to figure out your pings and kind of do some math in a sense. So this is one of those you do have to think. This is not one of those you just turn your card sideways, but I think overall, I think this deck is very, very, very solid. But that is pretty much it. Hopefully you guys like it. It is not a Celestial Being deck, but I wanted to eventually start venturing to other deck lists and other deck profiles as well, not just stay with Celestial Beings. I want to try other decks that are out in the meta. If you guys have a fun deck that you guys want me to try out, I'm curious to try out, you can leave a deck list down below. I'd be curious to copy and paste it and put it into maybe Wings Table or MSA to see how it works out. I am curious to see what other decks that we can try out and see what other playstyles I personally like, not just a series. And that is pretty much it. Hopefully you guys enjoy this video. Hopefully you find this entertaining, and maybe you guys want to try this out with yourself. But that is pretty much it, guys. I'll catch you guys in our next video. Peace.